What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and I am the host of the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. Yes, I'm located in Canada, Toronto, or a suburb of Toronto, Scarborough. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And good evening, broadcasting live a little bit after 9 p.m. Eastern Time on June 4th. Beautiful day here in Toronto, about 70, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Beautiful. I did yard work. I did this. I did that. Had some good, nice sunshine. Got the vitamin D up. All ready for what we call State of Things with Aisha and Jill, where you should be on Saturday nights around this time. Just saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So let's bring up our wonderful, wonderful panel. First up, we've got Aisha K. Staggers. What's going on?
Glad to be back.
Yeah, we missed you for a minute.
It was actually after that last show, and it never went away. I went to the hospital and had an emergency gallbladder appendectomy.
And you're recovering.
It's a process. At first it was the physical pain, and then it's been the eating part of it, because there are certain things I cannot have anymore. Oh. Because without a gallbladder, like your fat intake really is one of those things that you have to watch with the gallbladder. I was so out of it, I couldn't even watch the last couple of shows you guys did. So I have to actually go back and look. Because I honestly was ready to do last week.
Yes, your daughter messaged us saying, have to take her to emergency. I go, oh my goodness, but we are so happy to hear that you are on the upside. Okay, well, so we're going to bring out two ladies with the same first name, believe it or not. Okay, I'm going to bring LaLa on. So LaLa is back. Hey LaLa, what's going on?
Glad to be back. So good to see you guys.
Right back. Well, happy to have you.
Thank you so much though for covering, because I really appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
Yeah,
but more quite the ordeal, Aisha.
Oh my goodness. Well, LaLa, why don't you just share a little bit of yourself with our audience, because they may not know that you've been on once before, but you're back again. So if you can just give a little intro of yourself, and then we'll get to Laura.
Sure. I am Laura LaLa Key. I am known as the Realty Goddess and LaLa, and I have I'm an outspoken chick. Nowadays I've decided I was just going to stop being quiet and start speaking out a bit about the things that I need to. And a lot of times people say you need to be quiet when you're in business, don't take sides, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Change doesn't happen if you don't speak up. A closed mouth never gets fed. So I've decided I don't care. If you're not the person who doesn't want to work with me because I have certain views, then you're just not my type of person. And I do believe that, we must be the light in the world. We have to be, because if no one else does, then it's all going to be darkness. So someone has to speak up. So that's a little bit about me.
And where do you hail from?
I am in Florida right now, but I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. So I come from that crazy state of Mitch McConnell and Paul Rand. So this is one reason I cannot be quiet. I'm a realtor and a singer. Jill wouldn't get me for not saying that. I've been singing since I was 3. So realtor is my day job. But, I'm a
wonderful. And let's bring up Laura. Hey, Laura, how you doing?
Hello.
All right, good to have you back. How you been?
I'm okay.
All right.
As okay as we can be in these times.
All right. And you were with us last time, but people may not know anything about you other than, hey, Laura, and there's LaLa. So Laura, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a Brazilian immigrant. I've been living in Canada for about 10 years now. I've spent the last 8 years of my life doing everything in entertainment, from theater to stand-up to visual arts to media production. And here I am now interning in the show, doing some editing and some producing. And that's about it.
All right. Well, Jill is at a Prince event in Minneapolis this weekend, so she probably won't join us, but I know that she's here in spirit. So before we get into our conversations this evening, I want people to give their favorite Prince moment, because there's so many. So I'm going to start with Aisha, a favorite Prince moment.
But yeah, in 2004, I got to see Prince live. That was my Mother's Day gift from Amaya's dad. He gave me 2 tickets to go with whomever I wanted to go with to go see Prince live in Columbia, South Carolina, and I could not find anybody.
Come on.
I couldn't find anybody who could go with me on a Tuesday night, okay? But I was upset because I hadn't gotten tickets. I was right down the street, and the radio station was doing this promo. They're like giving 2 front row tickets away to anybody who had anything of Prince in their car. And I had just gotten a new car, so there was like nothing in my car. And this is back in 2004, so there were no CDs, nothing. And I drove past where they were, and I got back to my office, and I was thinking, oh, damn, I have my tattoo. And it didn't dawn on me that I could have stopped and showed them I have a symbol tattoo on my ankle that I've had since 97. So wow. It didn't dawn on me to stop then until afterwards. I was telling her dad this, and he ended up giving me the tickets that to go see. And so it was a great show. It was 3 hours long. In the middle of it, he spent just an hour, just him and acoustic guitar, and played and sang, and it was great.
Nice. LaLa?
Prince always made it a point to come to Louisville, Kentucky. Now, later on, I found out why he would come to Louisville so many times. He was actually speaking to a lot of our leaders for our Black communities. Very rare that people would come to Louisville. They would usually go to Cincinnati or Chicago, and we'd have to go visit there. So the first time Prince came through, it was for the Controversy concert, and my mother was going to let me go until she found out what was going to happen on the stage. So I was not allowed to go to that one. But the second time that he came through, when he was doing Under the Cherry Moon, and it was the Paisley period, I actually had a Paisley white and black shirt. So I went to that concert, and I kind of got pushed up to the front of the stage, and almost caught a tambourine until someone snatched it out of my hands. But most of that night, I literally felt like there was no one around me. My eyes were fixed upon him. And I knew, because I had loved him since 1978, his first album, I knew that he was living what I loved the most, which was music. So that was my favorite. And there were definitely times I felt like he was looking at me, because he made you feel like you were the only person there. So I enjoyed that.
Well, for myself, one of my great Prince memories was I think it was a tour promoting the Black album, and which was an official release. He was touring on that album, and the first track was Erotic City, and him and Sheila E. were singing it live to track, and on the stage they had a basketball court, and they were shooting hoops while they were singing live to track to that song. After I saw that song, I said, okay, I got my money's worth just after one song. But that was always a great moment. Another great memory was meeting him after that show for about 15 minutes, just one-on-one. And I said, first thing I said, yeah, he is as short as people say he is. So it was quite the experience. So very, very nice to have some of the memories. Tila is saying, my fave is seeing Prince live in the early 2000s with Larry Graham and Chaka Khan. Oh, wow. Oh, OMG, I was a kid and my mom took me. Your mom took you. That's quite the mom.
I still have to find that picture of me and my Chaka Khan poster when I was 2.5, 3 years old. I am gonna find him. I have to go to my mother's house and get it.
That's cool.
Nice. And Jen is saying, my favorite moment would be when I started my group. I absolutely love the positivity. It's really moving. All right. So we've got some memories. So more mass shootings in America.
Or as we say, Tuesday in America.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh, we're going at it already. Okay. So what I'm going to do.
This is yet another act of violence upon an American city.
Another news conference.
We are grieving with you.
Following another mass shooting in America. 4 people gunned down inside a hospital in Tulsa on the heels of the massacre of children and teachers in Uvalde, Texas, on the heels of the murders of 10 people at a grocery store in Buffalo.
The fact that these mass shootings are now just happening at such frequency is really, really scary. The
news conference in Tulsa comes on the same day the alleged Buffalo shooter, Peyton Gendron, appeared in court for an arraignment on several murder and domestic terrorism charges. Since the beginning of the year, there have been more than 230 mass shootings nationwide, according to the Gun Violence Archive. 20 of them just since Uvalde, with 105 people shot and 17 killed. CNN and the Archive define a mass shooting as one that injures or kills 4 or more people. As Americans, have we basically given up and accepted mass shootings as normal?
That's my fear. I think we've become desensitized. We see on our nightly news people killed in mass shootings, and
okay,
we start saying maybe there's nothing we can do.
Okay, because of the buffering of the video, I don't want to inconvenience people who are listening, but we got the gist of what was being reported there. So let's talk mass shootings in America. I don't think it's anything new, but is it because it's being put out more in the media?
Well, I mean, we've come to a definition of mass shootings, first of all, meaning 4 or more people dead in a mass shooting. That's the definition of it. That number of 233 is probably higher when you give the common man definition of a mass shooting, which would be 2 or more people who were shot and or killed. And in that instance, I don't think we would even be prepared to know those numbers and to understand them, because we still can't understand 233. For the people that don't know, but most of our viewers do know, I come from Connecticut. Newtown happened here. I remember the day that it happened. I had a child in elementary school at the time. And if the federal government could not do anything when 6-year-olds were murdered, they're not doing anything with 10-year-olds being murdered in their school. I really don't think that, well, I know myself personally, I don't have a whole lot of hope in terms of any kind of federal legislation being done. In my state, for example, they banned AR-15s. They banned assault rifles. However, they grandfathered in pre-2019 weapons, and so you've got to be very careful in terms of how states are doing things. We've gotten rid of a lot of the manufacturers in our state, but they've gone to other places like Texas and South Carolina, where you're seeing the erosion of these crimes more often. I think it. I don't think, to answer your question, Dr. Vibe, I don't think it's such that is the media paying more attention to it? I think that it was one of those things where the media was focused on one event, and then another one happened to come up and wipe that one out the cycle. So, for example, we were still talking about Buffalo, and all of the news organizations were focused on Buffalo when Uvalde happened. The same thing with Uvalde. Then you have this this mass shooting in Tulsa. And right when they were announcing the whole Tulsa thing, there was another shooting in Wisconsin that they had to move from that one to report on. So I don't think it's that that they're happening more frequently. I think it's that because we had that one that that they really began focusing on, which was Buffalo, that then, because it was in the news, that they were covering the other ones as they were happening, as this one tragedy was going on. Because otherwise we would have, I mean, the number of 233 was not even on my radar until they started talking about it, because they weren't covering it before. And I think it's one of those sad things in America that is not something that is leading our news cycle every day, which it should be.
LaLa.
Well, I have so much to say on this. First of all we're seeing is cover up. I don't care if it's Buffalo, Tulsa, Uvalde. Immediately the spin wagon comes out, and then that takes away from the trauma that actually happened. I'm sick of thoughts and prayers. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear thoughts and prayers. I want action. And let's be clear, I'm not against the Second Amendment. A lot of people just assume that I am. I'm not against the Second Amendment, but I'm against the weapons that don't need to be out there. I grew up in Kentucky, okay? I grew up around guns. We went hunting. We also were taught the respect of guns, okay? So it wasn't, they were out and in the open. I knew not to touch them. But there is a purpose for some guns, and I see no purpose for assault weapons. Assault weapons purposes are to either, I saw the greatest quote, to either go and have somebody at the shooting range and go, ha, 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 I just shot a big gun, or to kill somebody, one of the two. And we are seeing the two. There is no, you can't convince me that there's any reason at all we need assault weapons on the streets. Now, we also understand that if someone really wants a gun, and if someone really wants to kill someone, they will do so. But making it easy as an 18-year-old going to buy assault weapons and body protection, you have to go through so much just to get a license. But yet you let someone like that not even deal with it. I saw a great post the other day about someone talking about if you had to put people through what they are going through for women to have an abortion, going through the lines of people holding up killing babies and all this stuff, and you do the same thing with the people who are buying guns, you would see that it would be a little more effective, but still yet not effective at all. I mean, we are numb. When are we going to realize that this is a human condition and a human problem? So I'm tired of the politicians spinning this to mental illness when they defund mental illness, trying to make it look like you're taking away our rights when the actual human right has been taken away from these victims. And I'm tired of them not getting anything done. If they're not willing to get anything done, they need to go. It's time to get them all out. And I know that's not easy, and that's not a simple answer, but I do not want to hear another person lose their life. Just today, before we came live, there was another shooting in Kentucky at a funeral. I'm tired of things as a headline.
And that's the second one at a funeral in the last 2 days, okay? Because there was another one I read about, was it yesterday or Thursday? Where there was a shooting at a funeral.
Yes.
Laura, what are your thoughts?
I have so many thoughts. First of all, I'm gonna try not to swear because then I have to deal with that later in editing.
No problem. You're filling in for Jill today.
Okay, like the first thing that's pissing me off about all of this is how people on the internet are acting like this isn't a big deal. It's how normalized this is getting. Like, I don't know if you read the New York Times, the morning newsletter, but one of the op-eds right there started off like this: "Good morning. The Tulsa mass shooting wasn't as bad as some feared. Instead, it was yet another American tragedy. Are you fucking kidding me? It wasn't as bad. So like, I'm just tired of children dying and people acting like it's not their kids. And if it's not their kids, it's not their problems. But you keep this up and it might be your kids.
All right.
Siding up with the wolves is not gonna keep you from getting chopped up. You know what I mean? And it's like this entire situation with the whole mass shootings and the idea that politicians just go out and they go, oh, thoughts and prayers, instead of just passing a law about it. What drives me crazy is that gun enthusiasts are gonna bend backwards into some Circus du Soleil bullshit malabarism just to be like, no, but it wasn't the gun that killed people, it was the person, because and it's like, well, maybe this person wouldn't have gotten away with so many kills if they had like a pistol. You know what I mean? Maybe this person shouldn't have had access to that gun to begin with. Maybe, call me crazy, but I feel like getting a gun should be as hard as getting a driver's license. But it feels like it's not. And I don't know, gun enthusiasts are just really going out of their way to be like, you want to take away my gun. You want to come into my house and get my collection. Look at my carpet full of guns. What is wrong with you? Why are you laying so many guns in your carpet? What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to impress? Who are you trying to scare? What's happening? Like, I don't know. I don't know. At this point, I'm just going on a tangent. I'm done. Is the answer.
Okay.
You know, Laura,
I'm
you
done.
mentioned the New York Times, and this week the New York Times featured a story about my hometown, New Haven, Connecticut. It's like one of the best places to visit, and so they're like, oh yeah, they got rid of decades of crime, et cetera, et cetera. Well, first of all, gentrification. So there's that, but people talking about this being a fairly recent thing in like the last 20, 25 years, it really isn't. Because when you read that article in the New York Times about New Haven, if you don't know, this city wasn't called pistol waving or gun waving New Haven for nothing. It earned that reputation because of the amount of guns. And I wanted to be here last week because of this issue, but I couldn't. But I did send you all that link of that quote from a book. And in this book that someone wrote, they were describing seeing a shooting outside of a high school with two rival gangs, two cars going back and forth as school was getting out. And I wrote in our DM that that was accurate because I was standing on the third floor of the school looking out the window, and I saw that happen. I had been in school 3 times when people had brought guns into school and were shooting. I was used to going to school not knowing whether or not I'd see friends again the next day. The challenge that we've had in the last 40 to 50 years is that the color of the people with the heavy artillery guns has changed. There was a reason that 1994 ban on assault weapons happened in 94 and got passed almost unanimously. And that's because the people who were holding those assault weapons were gangs. The gangs were dealing in the machine guns, right? Mm-hmm. And they were getting them from organized crime, whether it be Italian, Russian, or what have you. So they were getting these, and battles on the street were with these guns. So what do? They outlaw them. But now they've made it easier to get because of, and get this right, it is because of fear. The fear that the person with the dark skin is going to come after you. So you have to have a gun or a weapon to protect yourself. The country's changing. The color of the country is changing. So you have to be able to arm yourself. When these people haven't even read the Second Amendment in full, it's for a well-regulated militia. And that was in the absence of a military and a local police department. We have those things now. It's absurd to me that the Constitution, we can change it. We can add the 13th Amendment, which makes people of color, specifically Black people, former descendants of slaves, citizens. We've got the 15th Amendment, which is voting rights. But you want to touch that Second Amendment right, and people lose their shit. And the thing of it is that they have not read that amendment in full, because if we take the Constitution as it is and we take that amendment for what it was, those people were thinking about bayonets and muskets. They were not thinking about automatic rifles, sawed-off shotguns, bump stocks, and all these other things that people have to make it easier to kill people. And let's be very clear. The purpose of a gun is to kill. If you are being attacked, to defend yourself, the thing you want, the best way to defend yourself against someone is to stop them from being able to come after you and attack you. And they can't very well do that if they're dead. These assault weapons are weapons of war, period. They are designed for the military to go out and kill as many people as they can in as little time as they can, because they don't have that much time when they're engaged in battle. And I think it's quite telling that the family of the man who invented the AR-15 and the AR-17, which is a little bit bigger than the AR-15, that his family said that he would be so sick if he knew that his guns were being used for what they're being used for now. There is no, put it this way, there is no reason for anyone to have an AR-15 to go and kill a 6-year-old child. Do you know what those bullets do to a body? If you do not, you need to go on the internet. The internet's free, and look up AR-15 gun wound. And it blasts the flesh, busts open bones, turns bones to jelly. The people, when they shoot people in the face with an AR-15, and this is why a lot of those people in Buffalo had to be cremated. It blows the face clean off and turns everything else into liquid. Okay?
And they had to do the same, get the parents to do the DNA for the baby.
And I learned this when Sandy Hook happened, because one of the children was hit 11 times, 6-year-old body 11 times. And I read what his mother described, how he looked afterward. And that I agree with Jay Johnson, who wrote in the New York Times or the Washington Post, that we do need an Emmett Till moment. People need to see that. But I think the difference between now and what Emmett Till's mother did was that you don't have the manipulation of media images by people who have agendas like Alex Jones. Could you imagine if those Newtown pictures had been made public, what he would have done? Our state was good in saying that they passed a law, literally, to keep those pictures under wraps and to not get out. But yeah, I think that we are in this place right now where you've got about 10% of the population of the United States holding the rest of us hostage by gun. By gun.
Literally.
That is it. It's like they will take away women's rights to their own bodies, to their medical care. They will take away our right to vote. But what they will not do, and they will not stand for, is you taking the right for them to have as many guns as is possible. The bigger, the better. Why? Because they have nothing else. I mean, when you sit and think about it, why do you need this? You look at these people who really push to have these weapons, and they're emasculated in some way. They're fearful of something. They've got hatred towards women, hatred towards people of color, and it is constant. It's a constant. It's like a constant kind of party. It's like every time there's a mass shooting, guess what? The number of gun sales goes up.
Yeah.
Which is the least logical thing. These same people run out and go and buy more guns. And for the gunman in Tulsa, I mean, he bought the gun an hour and a half before he killed those 4 people. And for me, I think the fact that people feel like we can't do anything, that really, there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. To treat it like it's just 25 years old. No, we're talking about a 50-year-old problem that we kind of just let go. If the state of California could enact a gun law to stop the Black Panthers from coming on the floor of the state house and the state Senate when they made that wrong turn in 1968, 69, there's no reason as to why we can't do this now.
But other countries have done it. Other countries have done it. So why can't we?
I'm just going to interrupt just to catch up on some comments. So Tila is saying, yes, Aisha, spot on. Also, she says, Green-Eyed Little Baby says, America's lost forever now. Also, Tila says, another part of the problem is that you have Republicans stating, oh, this is horrible, but, and they go into mental health issues by the Bible verses. And anything other than the fact that it's so easy to purchase guns in this country. And the Republicans are advising to arm teachers. Wow. And who do you arm at the funerals? Come on. And then let me just finish. Ryan Knight is saying they're afraid of people taking their guns. Truly illogical. Go ahead.
Let me say this as someone who was a professor of psychology. People who are mentally ill are more of a threat to themselves than they are to other people. So to say it's a mental health issue is always, as the go-to, is always just the wrong thing to do. I was explaining this to my daughter. I'm like, yes, mental health issues can exist, but we also have to come to terms with the fact that evil exists. Some people are not mentally ill. They are just pure evil. And we have to be able to accept that fact, that, people are doing these things out, not because they're sick, but because they are evil, period. And so, yeah, with what Tila was saying about the Republicans wanting to arm teachers, guess what? They don't want to fully stock classrooms. They don't want to make sure teachers have the supplies they need, but they will supply them with the AR-15. Come on.
And this Bible verse thing, I know exactly what she's talking about. It's driving me absolutely crazy. I went completely ballistic when I saw this ad of the maker of these guns that were responsible for the Uvalde. And there is an ad that they literally have with someone putting an AK in a toddler in his diaper's hands. And above the ad says, train a child up. And I'm thinking, we have really just, how do you, here's my thing. How do you fix something so broken? Because once you let the out of the bag, it's really hard to put it back in there. People keep saying you have to get all the way down to the bottom, just like if you have an addition. You have to come to rock bottom before you actually can rebuild. America is nowhere near rock bottom. And I'm not sure that in my lifetime, and I'm 52, that I am going to see the positive changes in America. They refuse to do better. What they like to do, when I say they, is they like to have the upper crust, the politicians up here, all having parties amongst themselves. As long as we are fighting amongst our own selves and they're up there as the elite, nothing will ever change. Nothing. So you're talking about train a child up. This is the same thing as racism. As long as racism and KKK is teaching stuff behind closed doors, we're never going to have change.
But here's the thing, though, LaLa.
Oh, hold on. Just hold on a sec. Laura wants to get in. She's been wanting to get in for a few minutes. So go ahead, Laura. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Okay. I have 3 things I need to say, and these are gonna be a few are gonna be hot takes. First things first. When LaLa, you brought up how they all talk about mental health of the shooter. It's always like, oh, this is terrible, but oh, suddenly we care about depression, right? And then they talk about bullying, and it's always like, well, this person was bullied in school and therefore they did this. But the thing that makes me angry whenever I hear this kind of thing is that, one, have they ever considered that every other marginalized person has also been bullied and they don't also turn out to be shooters? Not a fucking excuse, first of all. 2, have you ever considered that some people deserve to be bullied? Some people are not bullied enough. Some people turn out to be assholes specifically because they were never told no.
Yeah, we do have a lot.
If the shooter was bullied, guess what? Probably had a reason for it. So that's one of my hot takes here. He's not a victim because he was bullied. Because sometimes they're assholes, sometimes people can tell that they're assholes, and sometimes they get bullied because they deserve that. And even if they didn't deserve it,
with evilness.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. If you're going to shoot yourself anyway in the end, why not just cut to the chase? Why do you have to take all these people with you? Not just the people whose bodies you've taken,
revenge,
but the families that have to suffer through it. Revenge for what? Because you're dead. I mean that is the ultimate thing. But then there's also this piece of enabling. When we talk about the shooter at Newtown, the flags were up, had been up, okay? People were telling his mother. His mother still bought him guns. Why? Because he decided he wasn't going to be talking to her. They hadn't spoken in months, but it was like, oh, he'll love me more, or he'll talk to me more if I give him the thing that he wants. And guess who the first person was that he shot? The enabler, his mother, the person he knew that would probably stop him from doing that. Just like the shooter in Uvalde shoots his grandmother.
Okay, but Aisha, again, here's another hot take of mine. I do not feel any sympathy for that woman. I don't.
I'm not saying I have sympathy. I'm just saying understand this is how that person got the gun in the first place.
When people talk about school shooters in America, I don't think they talk about the parents enough. I don't think parents get enough heat for providing that scenario to begin with. Okay? And like, I just, you know how there's that case of like, oh, little kid puts their arm inside the jaguar cage, jaguar rips the thing, and then it's like, oh, well, I put my hand there and it bit me. That's what happened. And it's like, what do people think when they're giving guns to violent, mentally ill people? What is the outcome that you think is gonna come from? This isn't a hobby. If you want them to have a fucking hobby, get them games, take them to like some sort of sports class. Like, it's not guns. Guns are not a hobby, and it's definitely not something that you give to an isolated, mentally ill, unstable person. And it's not like she didn't know, she knew. So like, it's hard. Like, there's the person who sold the gun, like the access to this kind of thing. And here's the thing, it's like a lot of the times these boys are indoctrinated online because of all these white supremacy like Reddits, and you know, they always believe sometimes that they're killing these people because they're cleansing something, that they're making America better, that they're making the American dream. But the ironic thing is that the American dream is dead at this point. People from America are leaving America for other countries. Before, the whole point was that every immigrant in the world wanted to go to America to chase that dream, and now everyone is afraid of getting shot anywhere there. And it's like, what is the American dream? You know, I was watching a video yesterday, and it was like, in the past 2 years, the population in Portugal, I think, doubled or tripled with like American immigrants there, and they're all moving to Portugal. And like, it was just a sudden boom that they had, and it was literally because in the past 2 years things have been insane. And if people were working from home, they were like, I'm packing my shit, like I'm gone.
But you know, though, Laura, I have to say this, though. It's not really in the past few years that things have been going to hell here. Here's the thing with this gun issue. And this is what is so important. And this is why I beg of people not to just watch or read national news. You need to look at local news stories. The thing that people did not get when they were talking about Newtown was how the state of Connecticut was about to handle the gun violence issue. A few days before Newtown happened, they were looking at people who were about to get out of jail, who'd had gun violence charges, and they were going to follow them and to make sure that they did not become repeat offenders. Eric Holder was here with former Governor Malloy, and they were putting money behind this group of 400 to 500 Black and brown, mostly, young men who were getting out of prison with known gun violence offenses. And they were going to track them to make sure that they did not reoffend. So they hired more probation officers, and they were going to put everything behind this, because that was how they viewed the gun violence issue in Connecticut. 2 days later, how the gun violence issue in Connecticut looked was totally different. And so part of the challenge has been how we have seen gun violence. When you talk about the United States, you go back to the 80s and 90s, you're talking about the crack epidemic, and the focus on gun violence was on Black and brown people in those communities in the inner city. And if you didn't live there, you were considered safe. It's now a problem where people are realizing that they are no longer safe in the suburbs. They're no longer safe in the rural areas. They're no longer safe just walking into the grocery store to get a birthday cake for a child. And so that has been, I think, one of the biggest problems in this country, is how we view gun violence as more of an issue. It's not just their issue anymore, and that's how they treated it. It was, it's a Black and brown issue. It's an inner city issue. And now they're saying, oh, wow, it's not really a Black and brown issue. I can tell you the honest truth. When the Newtown thing happened, I actually happened to be getting a blood transfusion in the hospital. And I glanced up at the TV and I saw the word new, shooting, and school. And for me, my mind went right to New Haven school shooting. Why? Because that had been my experience. Okay. And that had been how gun violence manifested itself in Connecticut until that day. And so for a lot of people are not just desensitized, I think, to the mass shootings. I think that because people hadn't been having the conversation, we allowed it to get so big. It's like they took their eye off of this group of people and focused solely on this group of people, because those are the quote unquote criminals.
Okay, got to get in quick because we got more comments, more topics to get to tonight. So hold on. Tila saying it, quote, train a child up, unquote. Yes, this is truly sick. Yes, Laura is feisty like me. Love it. Which Laura or LaLa or both? I just want to make sure you're clear there. Dre writes, that's a problematic line of thinking. No one deserves to be bullied. And then Tila saying Laura is touching on replacement theory. So,
well, isn't that why all the guns, particularly like right after Charlottesville, the number of guns skyrocketed?
No, let's face it, because you couldn't even get ammo. Okay, guys, you couldn't get ammo. You couldn't get guns. Ammo shot through the roof. I was in LA, and there was a gun place there that I had passed a lot, and there would be lines around the corner whenever they announced that they had ammo available, and they would sell out. And they got so big, they actually started repurposing the ammo so that they could sell that ammo because they couldn't line up any ammo at the time.
So, and now you can get it in abundance, but you can't get baby formula, right?
Right. But, you know, that's Biden's fault, too.
President Biden asked Congress to pass gun control laws. I don't know if we'll spend as long on this one, but I don't think that's going to happen.
He did two primetime speeches in a week, and that's probably in a 7-day period, which is probably the news worthiness of it, was that he had to do 2 in a 7-day period. He's asking Congress to pass gun control laws. Well, we know this. They passed in the House. They already voted on them, yesterday. They passed in the House. They need 10 Republicans in the Senate. They're not going to get them. Why? Because this is an issue that they win on. Why? Because the majority of them accept money from the NRA.
Yes.
And why? Because they have that replacement theory, that fear. It's the fear of a Black and brown United States, and they have that. And until people start to admit to that part of it and deal with that part of it, we're still going to see these things. For example, there is what I don't understand is this. After 2015, when the Charleston shooting happened, do you remember how fast the Obama Department of Justice went after that shooter? I mean, they had him. His trial was already scheduled for South Carolina, and the federal government convicted. I mean, they did it in like a week and a half, and gave him the death penalty, right? I don't understand how come the shooter in Buffalo hasn't gotten that swift kind of justice. Again, Jill's favorite person, Merrick Garland, is asleep at the wheel. It's like, come on, what alleged hate crime? No, he wrote on the gun in whiteout, here is your reparations. He wrote the N-word on the tip of the gun as people were being shot in the face.
And let a white man know. He was like, oh, sorry.
Right. He started shooting in the parking lot. And here's the thing. It's like with the shooter in Charleston. You mean to tell me that these people didn't look at this, imagine if he hadn't started shooting in the parking lot, he had gone in, he would have stuck out like a sore thumb in this particular neighborhood, in that store. Okay. Just like in Charleston, young white kid at an AME church during a Bible study on a Wednesday, they can't even get their parishioners to go. So you have this, I mean, and here's the other thing too. I made this point on Twitter, and I don't think that people really got it. So I'm going to say it again. We're talking about these mass shooters going into school, 17, 18-year-olds. You do realize that they are either still in or just got out of school, which means they know all the protocols for an active shooter drill. They know what teachers and the students are supposed to do. So they're not going in there blind. They know that, okay, the kids are going to be hiding in that closet, because we were taught you go in the closet. They know this. So how do you outsmart that person? Well, you might not be able to outsmart them, but you can take away the weapon so that they can't get to that point. And this bull about a good guy with a gun is the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun. There were 19 good guys standing outside of 2 classroom doors and listened while one person outgunned them and murdered children and teachers. They were there. They did nothing. Nothing.
There was a man who was an hour away. Okay, Border Patrol guy, hour away, knew his kids was in that school, came and was like, "What are y'all doing?" So he decides, like, "Y'all not doing nothing. I'm getting in here." And he went in there, got his kids, got his wife, and helped many other people. So, and there was a case where a mother went in and got both of her kids.
Mm-hmm.
But you got people actually supposed to be the good guys who refused to go in and get anything done. So what are you there for? You were worthless. And now they're all trying, "Oh, well, we did things wrong." You think you did things wrong. When other people are solving a problem and you're trained to do this, there is an inherent problem within. The enemy is within, and it's always going to be within as long as they continue to fight for their, we deserve this and we do this and all the Blue Lives Matter and all this stuff, but they're not doing what needs to be done. These people are not being trained properly. They're just putting people on the force for no reason, if you ask me, because I've seen a lot of worthless people in all professions. Don't get it wrong, all professions. But if you can't do your job, you don't need that job.
And let me tell you something about these people, thinking that the good guys with the gun, if they have their gun, they're strapped. Let me tell you about Kevin, strapped with an AR-15, standing in a Starbucks line. Jamal comes in with a gun to hold up the store. You know what Kevin's going to be doing? Kevin's going to be hiding behind a table in a chair, shaking like a leaf, even though he's got a gun. So let's be realistic, okay? These people aren't brave.
No.
They aren't brave.
No.
All right. So got a comment here. Tila, 18 years old, and you can purchase a gun and enlist in the military, but the drinking age is 21. Does this make sense, y'all?
This is how they make it make sense, because the reason that they say they don't raise the age to 21 is because at 18 years old, you can be drafted into the military and will have to be able to use a gun. That was the justification I heard in the last couple of weeks. But wait a second. Then we could put an amendment. We could add an article to the amendment of the Second Amendment to say, unless you are in the military and being trained or drafted for war, you do not need to buy a gun before the age of 21. And to be perfectly honest, have you seen 21-year-olds these days? I would say raise it to 25. Because guess what? You really can't rent a car until you're 25 without another person's signature. So,
and then just stop letting people walk in and freaking do it. Texas is known to now all of us. And then who else followed? Ohio, where you could just walk in, buy a gun, anybody at all. You don't even need a concealed carry. There is no training. There is no education. There is no nothing. And if I'm surprised there's not more stories of them just shooting their own selves in the foot, because you don't have any training. You don't even know how to put a safety on a gun. So when you are removing all obstacles, what do you think is going to happen? And more states are following the same pattern as Texas.
Yeah. And we talk about there are the legal guns and there are the illegal guns. When I mentioned my hometown, one of the reasons that we had a gun issue is that if you know guns, you know what a Winchester is. Well, Winchester guns were made on Winchester Avenue in New Haven, Connecticut, because there was a Winchester Arms facility there. Now, one of the problems that we have was that people who were working in the factories were taking some of the weapons and selling them on the streets. right? To make money that way. That is a lot different than when a parent sits and says, I'm going to buy my 16-year-old a gun that they can just shoot with me. It's just a home thing. We just, because we hunt. And guess what? The excuse of hunting is irrelevant, because an AR, what are you going to do with something you shoot with an AR-15? It obliterates the flesh. It obliterates everything it hits. So, people who hunt usually do something with the thing that they've hunted. They use it to make leather, or they use the skins, or they eat it, whatever. You shoot something with the AR-15 or AR-17, you're not going to use that animal. It's obliterated. There's no way. It's like real hunters don't use those.
Nope.
All right. January 6th committee member says the upcoming. What?
Did you say we're
done?
Oh.
We're gun done.
I heard that too, Aisha.
We're gun done. We're gun done. I like to say we're gun for now, but unfortunately, I have a feeling we'll be still talking about this subject. I wouldn't be surprised if it's. Yep. Because I don't think there's enough, from where I sit, there's enough will in the American politicians to pass it. And I think there is a segment of American politicians and Americans just want it to fade away. But unfortunately, it will be interesting to see what happens if it happens in their backyard. What will happen? But let's move on. January 6th committee member says upcoming public hearings will blow the roof off the House. Now, we talk about the January 6th hearings. It looks finally they're coming to fruition. But again, are Americans even going to care?
Okay, let me just say this. The expectation for regular people, this is going to be boring. It's going to be long. It's going to be boring, and it's going to be laden with all kinds of jargon. Okay, so the expectation that you're going to get tell the truth, you can't handle the truth kind of moment is not going to happen. First of all, because Congress can't do any kind of criminal investigation. Okay, what they are doing is really just kind of a civil kind of investigation. And so they're going to be asking questions, and they're going to bring certain people forward. You're going to see testimony from people that we haven't heard about. But remember, these are not going to be the people who've been in the news. These are going to be people that you don't even know were connected somehow. And it's not going to be, you're not going to get your explosive moment that you get the definitive aha. So A went to B to C. You're not going to get that. It's going to be very abstract. It's going to be, you might hear a few things that were written in some text messages or what have you, but you're not going to get what Americans have come to expect in our justice system. You're not going to get people who aren't going to testify. So all the people that we would like to see be questioned will not be questioned before us. Why? Because they're not cooperative, and it will make the committee look bad. So all the people that we're going to see are people who have agreed to testify in front of the committee, and people who will affirmatively demonstrate the things that the committee has wanted to demonstrate. But as far as us having some kind of moment, it's not going to happen.
I don't see it happen. I mean, I don't, to me, they took too long in the first place. If they really wanted to move fast and swift, we've seen them move fast and swift before. This is not something that they're trying to, it's smoke and mirrors to me. Oh, look, we're going to put on this show for you. When in actuality, we have more viewers for Johnny and Amber than we're ever going to see for this January 6th committee. People just, I don't have faith in it at all, because there's been absolute proof shown long before this came along that they still not dished out anything showing that they're trying to get these people in check. It happened. It's still, to me, smoke and mirrors. And when I see something happen, I'll believe it. But now I think they're just only going to do what they need to do to appease certain people, then move on. I'm sick of America only talking about hot topics, and then the next topic is going on before you can even get through the topic at hand. January 6th should have been handled a long time ago, and I'm very disappointed and very upset that it has not been handled the way that it should have been handled when it's so much proof. You don't even need a hearing. You've got the proof.
Yeah, and you know, I agree, LaLa, because of the part of the problem with this taking so long is that Merrick Garland again sat on his ass. Yes. He's like, oh, we're just gonna let the committee deal with it, and you know, we'll do our investigation. And here's the thing: if he's as good an attorney as they thought he was, enough to be nominated to the Supreme Court, then he would be a good attorney general. And doing so would mean that, guess what? You are going to have to make some people the example. Okay? They're still dragging their feet, arresting people and charging people for the things that happened on January 6th. And I'm talking about the Trump supporters, okay? So what makes us think that they're going to expedite getting the people who really masterminded the whole thing? They're not going to. And every time that they get closer, those people are going to throw somebody else to the wolves. Right now it's Pete Navarro, because and the only reason Pete Navarro got arrested, let's be very clear, is because he had a criminal contempt charge, not a civil contempt charge. So you're wondering, why hasn't Mark Meadows been dragged in? Because his contempt charge is civil, not criminal. Steve Bannon got dragged in because his contempt charges were criminal, not civil. And so that's why we're seeing this slow walk of this January 6th thing, because, you know, civil cases take this long.
Time. Yeah,
if these people are being charged with criminal with criminal charges like they should be, it would be much swifter, and you would see more people being held accountable at the top rung. Right now, all the people that we're seeing, it's the penny ante shit. That's all we're seeing right now.
Laura, do you have anything to add on this one?
To be honest, no, this is not my topic. All the
it's okay.
White House stuff is a little off my alley.
You want to blow the roof off the house? You know what? Take Donald Trump away in some handcuffs.
Thank you. That's what I want to see. And it should have happened a long time ago. Yep. So, you know, until you really go ahead and tame that dragon, put him where he needs to be. I know somebody else is going to pop up, because look at DeSantis. He can't wait to be the next dragon head. Okay.
And but you know what? Even if they don't charge Donald Trump with something or take him away in handcuffs, at least follow through and say, this man cannot run again.
Thank you. Because he should
not run
taking all that in right now, and he's gonna take that to the umpteenth until he cannot do it anymore. Because let's face it, long before Mr. Orange One decided that he wanted to get into politics, he was already crooked. Everybody's talking about, oh, he's a good businessman. I don't know how many businessmen that I know that have had so many bankruptcies. Just the things that he did in New York with the public housing that he was doing and getting funding for from the government, and not building properly, like putting insulation into those things, putting in false windows, shows that everything that he has done in his life, he has done to only benefit him. So all of these supporters that he has right now, he has them fooled to a T. And I don't care if anybody comes at me at that, because as long as you continue to donate money to this man, he's going to tell you anything you want.
Let me tell you, these graduates of Trump University, because honestly, think about, that's yet another business that he scammed the federal government out of money.
Yes.
People were getting loans and things to go to Trump University, an unaccredited college and university. Please, with all my degrees, I couldn't go and start a college and expect to get federal student loan money. It's insane. And what scares me more than anything is not so much the fact that even that Trump will run again, because we know what that looks like. It's these people who are blind followers of him running for school boards, running for city councils, running for their state legislatures that are even scarier, because he's being the big boogeyman and trying to take up all the light so people just look at him and pay attention to him, but not paying attention to the secretaries of state they're trying to push through, and all these people that they're trying to put in place to really overthrow. They figured out that they can't overthrow the government from the top down, so they're going to go from the bottom up.
And that's what they've lined themselves up to. I'm telling you guys, I'm down here in the freaking thick of it with this Florida thing. Now, listen, I'm back and forth from California. Yeah, I was a little shocked at some of how the Orange County acted with this Trump thing. I was like, really? We are really here? I mean, there were points where I was afraid to go to certain areas in that area. And in Beverly Hills, I have never in my life been threatened and felt unsafe until they were having the Trump rally in Beverly Hills.
Wow.
I happened to be driving through. And when I tell you that I have not felt that much hate in years, I mean it. I mean, I was being called all sorts of names. They were ready to throw things. And this is in Beverly Hills. Okay. So for me to go from there to come to Florida, and I'm in the thick of it here, where every other house still has a sign up that says, "Don't blame me. I voted for Donald Trump." And then there is literally a house that I passed. I want a picture of it. I'm going to go try to find it again. There are 2 flags in front of this house that say, here we go, LaLa's going to have to say the word, "Fuck Biden." 2 of them. 2 of them. One on one side, one on the other. And right in the middle of that, the yard sign says, "Jesus loves you." This is the mentality. You want to talk about mental illness? To me, that is mental illness. You're talking about the wrong kind of mental illness. You are now following a cult. That is mental illness.
There's no different than Jim Jones.
Exactly.
The only difference between Trump and Jim Jones is that Jim Jones's followers were predominantly Black.
That's right. That's right. But see, now that's what they're pushing. You know, the Herschels, the dude in Louisville, Kentucky, can't think of his name, and it drives me absolutely crazy. That, you know, wouldn't move forward with the Breonna Taylor. That's what they're pushing now. But look, we got this Black person. Yay! Now see how good we are. And it scares me that so many of us are falling into that pattern now to be the token Black once again.
I mean, so Herschel Steppenfetchit Walker, his problem is that he fits the Trump follower persona to a T outside of his skin color. He's like he's an abusive man. He you could tell he's not very bright. He feels very small, and all he does is bloviate. Just all kinds of, you know, oh, I'm gonna do this and that, and then, you know, this is his explanation as to why the police in Uvalde did not do anything was so incoherent. And I was like, and you people want this to be your senator? He can't even string 2 words together to make a complete sentence.
I think it was today or yesterday. They also, another thing, they're just so blatant about doing everything illegal now. You know, they're handing out, it's Biden's fault that we have high gas. So here, we're filling your tank on the behalf of Herschel. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You cannot do that and be running for any type of political position here. But the thing is, people don't know the rules and they don't care anymore as long as you're just giving them something to benefit them in the moment.
Yeah. And basically what he was doing there was what they do like in school elections. I'll give you a cupcake if you vote for me. Can I buy your vote? And you can't. You're right. That is illegal in when it comes to actual elections.
All right. Tila says, have you ever watched a 45 rally? No one pays attention to him until he's doing stand up,
Stand up.
throwing dog whistles and waiting for the infamous soundbite. They are all trained pit bulls.
Woof,
And
woof.
Teal also says the cult of personality, which was a really good song by a group called Living Color back in the day. So we'll go ahead. Okay.
I mean,
we'll go.
we spend, look, this country has spent so much time growing the Donald Trump cult, right? And I'm sorry, but Democrats helped by not doing anything. Everybody sat there and was like making fun of this man, like he could never win the election. They're like, nobody took him seriously. When Jeb Bush dropped out of the race because it was too much for him, we should have known then that there is something fundamentally wrong with our with one of the parties in our country, because the way that people just rushed behind him. But now it's like the cowering fear of people who have wielded so much power for 30 plus years. I mean, think about how long what's his name has been there. Oh God, what is the guy's name? He's been there since 1801. Who is the guy? The one who's always with Grassley, Chuck Grassley.
Oh,
he's been there longer than I've been alive, okay? And he's afraid of Donald Trump. Dude, you have so much more authority. Why are you afraid of it's like he's afraid he's going to lose his voters. But
Yes.
but they've been voting for you for this amount of it's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous.
It's really quite mind-boggling to see. I mean, it's so clear to some of us, but it's like, how did this even happen? I mean, you got to, like, I just don't understand the whole thing, and the fact that people are so gullible or so afraid that when they saw someone that they could back, they came out in droves. It was no longer in the closet behind closed doors saying, now we have this person that we can get behind, and now it's just out of control. I mean, you never know who you're speaking to anymore. You literally do not. I was in a grocery store the other day and someone made a comment about my hair. I like your hair. Thank you very much. We had a nice little conversation. We both walked out to our cars together. And when she got in her Bubba truck, that said all this Trump stuff and stuff, you never know who you are speaking to anymore. And you must be very careful, because I don't think she understood who I really was or what I really was. A lot of the times people think that I am a white woman, when in fact I am not. So I hear a lot of things that they feel safe to say, and now they are safe to say it because Donald Trump allowed them to do it even stronger.
I mean, the ridiculousness of it is that people are no longer embarrassed by their bigotry.
Yeah.
It's something that they wear proudly.
Yeah.
It's something that they, you call them a racist and it's like, thank you. You get that kind of reaction to it. But not only that, I think Donald Trump did a very good job at gaslighting 75 million people. And they, in turn, the only thing that they've taken away from him is the ability to gaslight other people themselves, to tone police other people themselves. I mean, there's no anything behind any of the things that they talk about. For example, the Pizzagate thing. What was that? I still have yet to really get a firm grasp on what that was, but people voted for Donald Trump because of Pizzagate, because they thought that Democrats were having these were pedophiles who were bribing kids with pizza. I mean, the more ridiculous these things sound, the more people went down that rabbit hole with him. The more it's like, we used to have a Republican Party in this country that they might have been dreadful, but at least they weren't crazy.
Right.
Right now, it's like they let the crazy in, and then the crazy has taken over.
And it's almost like they know that they have to still continue to be crazy in order to still get the backing.
Yeah.
So therefore, you know, they're not gonna tone it back at all, because, you know, that could mean their seats. That could mean no longer political parties. But, you know, don't get me started on that, because honestly, I truly think that Congress and Senate, they need term limits, period. You should never have someone in the Congress and Senate for a career lifetime. You need terms just like we have terms for the president. Period.
Well, you know, and just to let our audience know, Dr. Vibe's system crashed. So he's rebooting now, and he's going to join us in a little bit. But you're so right, because we have term limits for the president. President cannot run more than 2 terms.
That's right.
There are no term limits in the House, the Senate, or the Supreme Court. 3 branches of government, and in 2 branches, you mean to tell me there are no term limits?
Yeah.
That's really weird.
We should have term limits in the judiciary branch, because they affect for someone to serve their entire lifetime. The younger they are, the longer they will be on the bench, and they will have been able to impact an entire generation. It's like Clarence Thomas. I was in high school. Okay. I was in high school. I'm 47 now, and he is still there. Yeah. There's no reason for it. I mean, and even when you talk about the Senate, like, mind you, I don't know what happened to Joe Lieberman. Okay. I will say that, but he was one of the Connecticut senators. Him and, I forgot the other guy, Chris Dodd. Okay. Until they decided they weren't going to run anymore, they had been senators for Connecticut since before I was born, and were until my late 30s. Yep. That is ridiculous. Yep. That is a whole generation's lifetime.
Exactly. So we talk about it all the time, but I don't ever see any action taken on that. Why is it okay for the presidency to be a term limit, but not yet the other 2 powers up there? It boggles my mind. I've always wanted to know that. I've always tried to find groups to join where we can make that change, but they just fizzle out.
Because the very people who have to make the change into the law,
that's right,
are the people that we want to put limits on.
They'll never vote for it.
That's insane. Let me, since Dr. Vibe's here, let me get through some of our comments. Jen says, Tila, you are so right. Let's see, who else? Hi, Cinnamon Canella. You're late, but you're here, and we're here with you. We're just waiting for Dr. Vibe to come back. He had to reboot. And Tila, yes, it's weird. These are lawmakers. Yes, the lawmakers who need the term limits would get to make that law, and they're not going to do that.
That's right.
That is the scariest thing.
And I think we also need to be very open. They need to be very open of who is backing each and every one of them. Who are the lobbyists? Who are the people who are giving them the money? You know, they're very secretive about that. And, you know, I used to try my best to kind of like Romney. I thought maybe he has a little bit of consciousness, but he's never going to go against the NRA. Ever.
He gets the most money out of any lawmaker from the NRA.
Yes.
Of course he's not going to.
And you think he's really going to vote to have a term? I don't think so.
No, but guess what? That also shows you just the kind of predicament that people are in. You know, Romney talks about being this man of God and him and his Mormon roots.
Yes.
But he's taking money from the people who are pushing people to buy guns to kill babies.
Exactly.
Right? And I think there's been this bastardization of Christianity from the right, in that there's a specific kind of Christian, right? Christianity. It's almost ridiculous. It's like they try to have both and rather than the either or that their faith actually demands of them. So it's like, yeah, we can hold on to our guns even though thou shalt not kill is one of the commandments, but you got to protect yourself.
They're so selective. They're so selective about what they wanna take seriously from the Bible and what they don't. Would they pickpocket it? It's like,
Yes, they pick and choose what they want to push. Exactly.
Dr. Vibe, thank you for coming back. No, we've been staying on the conversation, and we
sorry about that.
Yep, we caught up on all the comments.
All right, so thank you so much.
Like I said earlier, the reason Pete Navarro got indicted was because it was a criminal contempt charge from the DOJ. He was being investigated. Now, here's the funny thing. You would think that he would have learned that the last time he went on Ari Melber, which was what got them to look at him in the first place, because he was talking about this Green Bay sweep and all the illegal things that they were going to do to overthrow the election. He goes on Ari Melber again this week, right? And starts having diarrhea of the mouth. And the next day, they picked him up, and then he had the nerve on the steps. Like after he got out the hearing, he was just like, "Well, they had no right to come and, with like a SWAT team and pound on my." Guess what? That's what law enforcement does to criminals. Period. You weren't you don't get afforded. Hey, you want to come down and chat with? No, you broke the law, and they came after you the way the feds come after a criminal.
All right. Anyone want to add to that? Think enough said.
I see something done.
All right.
Again, me smoking mirrors.
And our final conversation for tonight is something that LaLa want to bring up. Rick Caruso was a Republican for 3 years. 3 years ago. Will voters care? So I had not heard about this gentleman's name till you brought up to me on the back channel today, Laura. So LaLa, so tell us why we need to chat about this for a few moments.
He is a billionaire running in California for a political position, and he has flip-flopped many times on his political affiliation. He has gone back and forth between Republican and Democrat whenever it serves his purpose. The problem that I have with this is, even though he just did this 3 weeks before the elections, because the elections are still going on in California right now. And so what he did is, once again, smoke and mirrors. People tend to vote straight down party lines. And the fact that he changed over to Democrat when Republicans are struggling and really wanting more power is to depend on those who don't do the research, who don't know anything about him, to go in and vote straight down party lines and for him to get in. He is extremely well known to still vote and support for people like Mitch McConnell, anti-abortion laws. He is everything against what most Democrats stand for. So the tomfoolery that is really going on here is another tactic that I feel that Republicans are doing to get more power. And I don't see that he will be the last one to do it. He's certainly not the first. There have been a history of people who have done that. But now, once again, it's so blatant and in your face. But will people care? Because, once again, get your ballot. I'm a Democrat. I'm against all Republicans. What are you going to do? You're going to go straight down that line without doing your research. So my fear is that we are going to see way more of this, and then we're going to be sorry because people have not done their homework. This is a dangerous tactic, but if they see that this tactic is going to work, they're going to jump on it more. Just like as soon as they could find out that they could redistrict places to get more votes, they immediately started that, and it's working in many areas. So I see this as another way of causing more division in this country, and also finding a way of getting in illegally, if you ask me. I know it's not illegal for voting, but it is if you're misrepresenting yourself and the party that you're standing for.
Well, this is why I believe that we need stronger federal voting laws, because remember, the ballots are different from state to state.
Yes.
Because the Secretary of State is the one who oversees elections in every state. And so every state has a different ballot. Mm-hmm. So you can go, like, in some states, you'll have your Democratic ticket, your Republican ticket, and at the very top, there's a box, vote straight ticket. All you got to do is check that box. You don't have to go down and check them all. In some states, you have to go down and check for each person. And in other states, they have a different general election ballot than they do a regular election ballot. And so, like, if there's a presidential election, they will have a specific ballot that they use that particular year. And then you had some states, even during the last election, in the 2016 election, talking about how the Senate candidates, they put the Senate candidates over to the right. So people going down straight ticket, were missing the Senate race. And it was a very hotly contested race where the Democrat was favored to win, and people were not filling out that box because it was out of the view sight of people. Sometimes the instructions from state to state vary, and they're either difficult to understand or they aren't there at all. And so I think one of the challenges that we have is this thing of having states control elections and making those elections local. I think that if we have to have a federal voting law, we need to have a federal ballot. It needs to be the same and consistent across the board, because the only reason you have people like Donald Trump coming out and saying, oh, this election was rigged and it was rigged, is because they know that different states have different ballots and different systems for accounting for those ballots. And that is how you are able to dupe an entire country of people into believing an election was stolen, because
it's only to their favor. If you remember, now listen, there were many elections that I feel like were stolen too, right before this, and it would have been in the Democratic favor, but it didn't matter until this one. Now people who told us to get over it are now saying, oh no, it was rigged, and it was all rigged. And you got your double standards once again. I do believe you are completely right. It needs to be uniform. There shouldn't be any kind of variation where it's a confusion. Now you're always going to be confused people, but still it needs to be uniform where there isn't any way that people can say that they didn't understand.
And then people need to just get used to the fact that, guess what? You win elections and you lose elections. And sometimes people that seem to be performing well lose. I mean, honestly, do you know if the Democrats still now, 2022, we're still on the whole Bush v. Gore thing, how Republicans would act?
Yes.
And would be talk. You remember how they talked back then, like, oh, get over it, whatever. And that was a clear theft, because the Supreme Court got to decide who was going to be president. There was 111 votes between the two. So, let's not say, oh, we've been here before. We've seen this game and how it plays out. And because our election process is so complicated, it is when it doesn't need to be.
Yes.
It's subject to so many outside influences. We are a country, like, I look at other countries. I look at how Canada holds its elections, Dr. Vibe and Laura. I mean, nothing could be more simple. Okay. Why in this? We have a country. You have a national election. You have a countrywide election, right?
Yep.
And your country oversees the election. We have a countrywide election, and every state gets to oversee how that election goes in that state. I think that honestly, I'm going to say this: we put too much emphasis on states' rights.
Yes.
Okay, and let's be clear: the whole states' rights thing, that was a talking point to keep chattel slavery in existence in the United States. So I'm one of those people where, thankfully, I live in a blue state, but the whole states' rights argument is hurting people. The whole states' rights argument is circling back to our first conversation. It's why we can't deal with this gun issue, because every state has different laws when it comes to guns and ownership.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna end it off there tonight. And I'm gonna just put some last comments. Tila says Musk endorses Caruso.
Yes.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Almighty is baby says I have known people who vote for someone simply because Jen, because they saw a sign on a lawn. Scary how uninformed people are. Tila says exactly, Jen. And there are peeps who vote for a candidate because they can sit down and quote have a beer with them, unquote. It's strange.
But that's how people voted for the last Bush. Because of the beer thing.
Yep. And Jen says, yeah, it's very strange. And Tila says, preach, Aisha. So we made it. We got to the finish line again. Ladies, I know Jill would be proud. Jill would be proud. So Jill, wherever you are, I hope you're dancing right now or you're singing and probably having your goblet of wine in one hand. So that is our dear Jill. Ladies, I know Jill would be proud. Jill would be proud. So Jill, wherever you are, I hope you're dancing right now or you're singing and probably having your goblet of wine in one hand. So that is our dear Jill. Ladies, thanks again for another epic conversation. It was another great night. And as always, before we let people be on their way, we like them to give their contact information. So first up, Laura.
Hi. If you would like to follow me, my username is @Laura Faritos for both Twitter and Instagram.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't have all that much opinions about American politics today.
That's okay. It's okay. You are family. No worries. Next up.
I am LaLa, known as the Realty Goddess on all social media platforms. And so you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I am branded as Realty Goddess. You put that in there, you're going to find me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Next up, Aisha K.
You can find me at Aisha Staggers on Twitter or AK Staggers on Instagram. And I'm just happy to be back.
Glad to have you back. Fantastic. And it is Dr. Vibe here. And if you want to get a hold of me, best place to probably go, just go to the website, thedrvibeshow.com. That's where you can catch me. And I'll just put it here at the bottom. Those are all the different. I'm Google-licious. I'm email-licious. I'm Facebook-licious. I'm Twitter-licious. I'm Gram-licious, as I say. So I'd like to thank everyone who caught the conversation live or on the replay or listened to on the replay. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. As it says on the bottom, if you're watching this live on the replay, you can catch replays on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube or Facebook and the website. So as always, we want to sign off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Remember to give yourselves grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And we'll be back next week, all things being good. And we will have Ms. Jones talk about what Minneapolis was all about. And we will get everyone on full cylinders as per usual. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith and walk good. Bye, everybody.